morning, everybody. So welcome to this early morning session on the last day of ESOF. Today we will talk to you about career development and best practice. And you will see there are 8 of us. We're 8 careers advisors supporting researchers in Europe. And Sarah will tell you all about our group and what we will do today.
Oh, thanks, Barbara. So if we could see the first slides, I'll just introduce the session and let people know exactly what we're doing today. So as Barbara said, there's 8 talks, but actually we're only aiming to talk for 5 minutes each, which means there'll be plenty of time for Q&A. So welcome, everybody. This is a session on building bridges and sharing good practice. And we are a group of careers advisors supporting researchers in Europe, the CARE group. And we were set up in ESOF, actually, in 2014 at the Copenhagen ESOF meeting. And I think you just need to go forward one slide, Barbara. And I'll just introduce this, just to say that we set up the group so that we could network with each other and share information and experiences. And we actually refer to each other. So because academia and research is such a global enterprise, it's really helpful for us to be able to confer with each other and to help you and with your careers. And so I'll just go back a slide. Sorry, Barbara. We have set up this Mentimeter site where we've asked you a couple of questions. And the first one is asking you, what's your position? So are you a doctoral researcher? Are you a PhD student? Are you a postdoc, an academic? And so if you go to www.menti.com and then you just type in the code, you'll see that question. And then you'll see another question as well about what you think is most important to help you with your career. So we've left that at the top of the slide so that you can keep a note of that. And so here we are 8 members of the CARE group, and we will be making these slides available to you afterwards on our LinkedIn group, our CARE LinkedIn group, which is Careers Advisors Supporting Researchers in Europe. And we'll give you that link at the end of the session so that you can download the slides later on. Okay, so I think without further ado, I will leave it there, and you'll see here is the running order. Beata is representing Eurodoc, so she will give the perspective of PhD researchers first, and then it will be followed on by the rest of the speakers. So I'll leave it with you, Beata. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Beata Zwierzyńska, and I represent European Council of Doctoral Candidates and Junior Researchers, and I will talk about different actors in career development of early career researchers. So at the beginning, a few words about Eurodoc, some important issues for us and generally for early career researchers, and PhD paradox. So Eurodoc is a non-profit organization. We were founded in 2002 and we are based in Brussels. We are a federation of 28 national associations, which is roughly 1 million early career researchers that we represent. Our mission is to represent doctoral candidates and junior researchers in Europe in their pursuit of decent professional life. So career development is also in our focus. We have, for example, working groups such as doctoral training working group, which develop, for example, a transferable skills report, employment and careers, which is soon launching a qualitative survey on supervisory practices. There is democracy and sustainability working group, which has, amongst many, also social competences on the agenda. So career prospects, which are also important issue for Eurodoc, are one of the potential stressing factors. We all know it. It can cause mental health issues. So, for example, Talent Center at the University of Antwerp was surprised to learn in their internal job satisfaction survey that ECRs had the highest stress scores in all staff. This is an example actually from like 2019 Eurodoc conference where the results were presented. So top stressors at this particular university among staff were related to job uncertainty. Questions they had questions on research trajectory and future career in academia. However, there is the Xerox Survey. We can still come back to the previous slide, please. In this survey, we learned that 84% of researchers surveyed who had moved beyond academia said that they were satisfied with their current career, and only 6% would consider returning to academia. So this is a kind of paradox. A paradox that you see while PhD holders have really good employment perspectives. This is the next slide. They are satisfied outside academia, but many still want to stay or want to leave academia because it seems that this is like the ultimate goal to stay there. Many ECRs consider leaving academia as a failure, actually, and their choice to go outside academia as kind of worse. So it is not surprising, I would say, because many doctoral programs usually prepare for academic career. So it might be assumed that it is the ultimate goal to stay there. But actually, we can ask ourselves whether ECRs were intended to stay academia. Not really. The purpose of massification of doctoral education was the market, innovation, transfer of knowledge to society and business. So this PhD paradox and can be looked at from 4 perspectives. So, for example, if you are an ECR, a career researcher, you can ask yourself, what are you so stressed about in relation to your career prospects? So why don't you use those 3-4 years at university as kind of springboard and opportunity for self-development? You can have more initiative, you can help each other with your friends, you can take part in grassroots initiatives, evaluate your progress, set a few scenarios for your career prospects, be open, and of course take care of yourself. If you are a supervisor, you can ask yourself, are you a good career advisor? If yes, how do you engage ECRs? How do you evaluate their personal progress? If being a supervisor doesn't mean for you a career advisor, okay, do you know who can help your younger colleagues? Or do you want to be trained for career advising, rather? And if you are a career advisor, so the question is, how do you know ECRs? Do you approach your clients as students, or maybe those who are at early stage of their career? Do you know why doctoral candidates or postdocs need your advice? This is crucial. It seems simple questions, but very crucial. And last but not least, if you are a program manager or any other university representative, how do you see your role in career planning and development? What are your main goals? Do you have kind of some mechanism to monitor ECR's professional satisfaction? Do you track their careers, or do you receive late feedback from them? I want to leave you with an epilogue, which is my own perspective. That is that I joined academia later in my life. I am not sure if this perspective is often considered by all those actors, supervisors, career advisors, or universities or ECRs themselves. So, for example, at my university in pedagogy, which we are actually a majority, those who joined their career later in their lives, and it's a growing number. So the question is, how do you plan? How do you develop such a career? You know, what is the strategy for such ECRs? In whatever role you are, you can consider that there is a different kind of potential and goals. And when, for example, offering internships to us or advice, career advice, do you want to learn? Do you want us to learn like what is life outside academia, because that's the goal for many younger colleagues, but is it necessarily the goal for those who joined later in the career? It could be a little bit artificial, I believe. So you can consider that as practitioners, we already provide a link between university and practice, and how could this be an added value for university, for other ECRs, career centers, or supervisors? Just to finish with that. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Beata. You make some really good points there. And so I'm Sarah Blackford. I'm a professional careers advisor specialising in working with PhDs and postdocs. And you'll see my blog there if you want to find out more about my work and my career resources. But what I want to do in this talk is basically give an overview of the who, what, where, and how of career development support. If we go to the next slide, I wanted to just say, give you some surveys. There's quite a lot of surveys being done on PhDs, researchers, and their working situation. So the where does this support take place? So AGCAS, which is a careers advisory services professional body in the UK, did a survey, and they found out that 3/4 of higher education institutions in the UK support their PhD students through their career services. So as well as supporting undergraduate students and master's students, they also offer support for PhDs and postdocs. Some just the PhD, some a mixture of both, and then other services actually have a sole careers advisor whose only job is to work with PhDs and postdocs. And then moving on to another survey, which was done as well in the UK. This was asking PhD students what they felt about their careers. And most of them would agree that their career development in relation to their professional development related to their academic activities was fine. But actually, they spent a lot of time doing their own research for their careers. Many of them attended career workshops, but very few actually saw a career consultant. And this is perhaps to do with the fact that there is a limited capacity to support career PhDs and postdocs in universities, and so the career development is generally done as a workshop. And then I saw these two talks during ESOF, so I thought I'd include them. So one was from the Marie Curie Alumni Association and one was from BTI. And they were both saying similar things, and this very much resonates with what Beata was saying about the stress levels experienced by PhDs and postdocs. And in fact, these surveys showed that where available organizational support was available, it reduced the stress. So where there's career development and online training for PhDs, they experience reduced stress. So that's a good sign. And then moving on again, so the next slide, thank you. So what constitutes career provision? And again, I think Beata, you made some really good points in your talk, and obviously Eurodoc is covering a lot of these aspects. But I've highlighted here a stable career development program, which is really important, considering that over 3/4 of PhD students and postdocs said that this was how they experienced the career support in their institutions. And so moving on to my final slide, I wanted to pull together all of these aspects, and I've actually put it together in a model with a colleague of mine who's based at Leeds University, Tony Bromley. And what you see in the centre of this TIPS model is the input. So that's the training, that's the professional career development, which is to do with academic studies. It's the personal career development, which is to do with looking for other careers, getting some career guidance and helping to look for jobs. And then also experiential learning, so getting input from the outside, the external employers, and real life activities, internships, and so on. And then around this is a kind of scaffolding, because these career development programs will only work and will only really produce the output that we're looking for in terms of skills development and increased confidence if we think about the timing and the type of training that's being done and the career stage that the participants are at. And then if we look at their own personal situation and their own self-motivation, sorry, can we just go back? And then P stands for peers and patronage. And again, this resonates with Beata and what she said about taking into consideration supervisors and postdocs and collaborators and careers advisors. And then finally, as Wellcome reported in a recent survey they did on the research culture, that in itself is also really, really important to underpin all of this. So I'll go to my final slide and just say that now the idea is we're going to hear from everybody else giving examples from their own institutions and from a variety of different countries. So thank you very much.
So thanks, Sarah. Hello, everybody. I'm Donald Lush. I'm a careers consultant working with researchers, that's both PhDs and research staff at King's College London. I thought you might like to see a picture of our very beautiful campus. I haven't been there for 6 months, so it's nice for me to see it as well. I'm looking forward to getting back there. So this is probably the most important thing that I wanted to say, and a lot of what I say will connect up with what Sarah was talking about. Our purpose in working with researchers is to open people's minds up to opportunities, both within academia, because I think even within academia people have quite narrow views of what they can do, but also well beyond it, and to help them successfully follow their chosen career path. So to give you an idea, at King's we have 3,000 PhD students and 2,000 research staff, so that's an enormous community. We are, as a team, 4 people, but we are actually all part-time, so we are in fact 2 full-time equivalent careers consultants trying to support 5,000 people. So one of our tasks is to make the best of that very scarce resource. I have to say King's has been brilliant. They've invested in us quite a bit. We're a lot bigger as a team than we were 4 years ago when I joined, and I think the future looks quite bright for us. We also benefit hugely. We work within a large careers and employability service, and we get a tremendous amount of support from them. So help with things like marketing, linking with employers, technology. Could we go back a bit, please? Thanks. And our booking systems. So we're not actually on our own. We get a lot of value for money from the people around us. We also work very closely with our internal departments, our schools and our faculties, and they provide a tremendous amount of support as well. So that's one of the reasons why the 2 full-time people can actually do this at all. So if we could move on, thanks. So what do we actually do? So one of the things I think people think about in terms of career services is careers appointments, the things that Sarah and I do all the time. We offer one-to-one face-to-face appointments of 30 or 60 minutes. We provide online workshops, so we're planning a term at a time at the moment because we're not sure when we're going back to face-to-face. So we've currently got 10 workshops planned for next term. We bring employers in from outside academia, so life science consulting, careers in arts and humanities, careers in science policy are a couple of the recent and forthcoming themes. We have a lot of accessible, bespoke online resources specifically for PhDs and research staff. We run a podcast, so if you like podcasts, just search your favorite podcast source for Careers in Your Ears. We have now over 20 episodes of interviews with people who have PhDs who've pursued both academic and non-academic careers, and them just telling their story is one of the ways we just get people to open up to new possibilities and to build a sense of community. We run a Twitter account, so we'd be delighted if you'd follow us. It's called @KCL Do One Thing. And the purpose of that is twofold, really. One is to try and build a sense of community amongst the 5,000 people, because it's often quite isolating being a researcher. And the other one is to promote things that actually stretch people's thinking a bit, so to get them to engage with new behaviours, new activities, new events, that kind of thing. Finally, we also integrate with the wider activities of the careers service. So there's a huge series of talks and careers fairs with employers coming in with offering roles that are of interest to people with PhDs, and we try and encourage people to go along there. So we'll see in a minute what kind of impact we're actually having. So if we could move to the next slide. So this is our annual report. I'm really pleased with this. We've managed to get it down to one slide. It used to be a sort of 15-page document, but this is us up to the 26th of June 2020. So you'll see at the top left 306 face-to-face appointments. That's 6.2% of the PGR community. Very much chimes with what Sarah said about how few people will come to a face-to-face appointment compared to the other things they do. So, for example, we have 1,000 followers on KCL Do One Thing, our Twitter account. We have almost 2,000 downloads of our podcast. Nearly 1,000 people went to our careers events. We've got 1,002 people on our webinars. And just at the bottom there, something we know about our own particular community, 90% of our PhD graduates are employed. In fact, it's 15 months, there's a mistake on that slide, after graduation. As Sarah said and Beata said, PhDs, people with PhDs are very, very employable. And initially, just that final pink square there, 74% of our PhDs want jobs in education, science or health, and that tends to be where they end up. So there's, a very positive picture of engagement and destination. So we kind of feel we're making some progress with what we're trying to do. So that's everything I wanted to say. So I'm happy to pass on. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Donald. So it's really very, very impressive what you're doing at King's. And yes, I'm happy to take the turn with telling you what we do at our Helmholtz Center, the German Cancer Research Center. Before I start, I quickly want to mention you the Menti code, because someone has asked in the chat if we could repeat it. It's not on the slide anymore, but so go to menti.com. And the code is 2156805, and I repeat 215685. Also 805 at the end. I'll repeat it once more at the end, so everybody, and at the very end of the presentations it will be back for the discussion round, so no worries. Yeah, so our career center, where we have like about 1/5 of the number of researchers you have at King's, we have about 500 doctoral researchers and 450 postdoctoral ones. We set up a system basically for career development, and what we do with financial support from the Helmholtz Association is that we built our own software, which includes a career development plan and competence assessment. And this is based on the main career tracks of our alumni. So we also really focus a lot on where our researchers go next. And of course, they're coming from cancer research, so they're mainly in the natural sciences. But we believe that the kind of jobs we found they're in are quite applicable to many other fields. So the tool consists of what we find most important, besides the resources and the self-checks, is actually the My Plan section, where I can add my career goal, so to say my plan A and plan B, but most importantly really make a little calendar of my to-dos. If I say I would eventually go into clinical research after my postdoctoral research, that I start planning now with SMART goals, the specific, measurable, active, realistic, time-bound, what I'm gonna do. Now, if I want to find out what would really be a matter, which skills I could still focus on in order to reach that career goal, I do the self-assessment with a drag and drop system, and once I have my skill check, I could then see how that matches to the profiles of our alumni in certain fields. And so we also have a skills alignment that matches that and shows the 5 top jobs based on skills only. And of course, preferences and values are just as important. What our users find most useful is actually the resources section with a lot of quotes about what our alumni say. And it's also very important that it includes really appointments, so one-to-one guidance with us at the career service, as well as involving the supervisor and mentors in career development. And this is, so to say, to complete the circle of career development, and basically also started all over again. So the job families that we find our alumni are very often turning to are shown here. So they go from obviously academia to science writing, communication, clinical research, science management, but also marketing, sales, drug approval, etc. And just to find out what those careers involve is what is very useful to get a better idea and to plan for a future career. And then exploring and networking, we have trainings there, and how to apply for jobs, and that's just the classical things that I think most of our career services offer. And I think the nice thing is that this is all based on our alumni network, and that our alumni are also active as mentors, so that they can be approached and contacted directly to answer questions, and to actually also sponsor researchers in their endeavors. And events that we have, and that are this year, of course, taking place online on Zoom, are our career days, about 3 times a year since now 8 years. We focus on exactly these focus topics where we find that many of our researchers are interested in. So those topics then, turn every 2 or 3 years. And this year we still have our Career Day Academia on October 1st and 2nd, actually, because it's on Zoom. We will spread it over 2 days, so it's not too heavy to be all day on Zoom. And project management on the 3rd and the 4th of December. And these events are open to all, so you can refer to our website if you're interested in joining and then listening to talks from our alumni who are in the field, and directly interacting with them in breakout rooms. So that is our focus and what we do at the DKFZ. And I will repeat once more the menti.com code. It's 2156 805. And I will give the word to Annette now, off to Sweden.
Thank you, Barbara. Sweden calling here. So my name is Annette, and I work with career service at Karolinska Institute in Stockholm. And this is one of the largest research facilities in Sweden. We count for maybe 40% of the medical research. And next slide, thank you. And at Career Service, we are a small team of 4 people, and our mission is to prepare students, doctoral candidates, and postdoc researchers for a career within or outside academia. And 2 of us are working with the doctoral students. They are about a little more than 2,000 at Karolinska, and we have about 1,000 postdoctoral researchers. Of these 2 groups, about 50% of them are international ones, coming from all over the world. I checked the numbers from last year, and 2019 we had about 4,000 participants at 80 different events. I should say that we don't do all these events ourselves. We have a strong collaboration together with many different actors at the campus, at the university, such as the Doctoral Student Associations, the KAI Postdoc Association, Junior Faculty, Grants Office, and also HR to some extent. One of the things that we do every year is a doctoral course called Career Skills for Scientists. And that course is also associated to an internship program. So the doctoral students can take the course, and then they can apply for 1 month internship within the company. We have run the course for more than 10 years, and also after we started the internship program for PhD students, the postdoc came and said that they are also interested in this. So we have now another program targeting postdocs, where they can do a 3-month project within a company or organization. Now, today, we started with 5 internship a year, and this year we have about 50 approximately funding for. And here is a picture of academic skills, and this was a survey performed by Euraccess last year. And in company view, the top 3 skills that researchers have is they are excellent in problem solving, they have technical and subject expertise, and they're perfect research skills. However, what they're missing are sometimes business awareness, leadership, and also people management. And this is something, if you go to next slide, these skills is something that you can, the missing skills is something you can practice during an internship, for example. And here's a statement from a postdoc who did an internship at the Swedish Research Council, and she said that she got very valuable insight into the Swedish networking and working culture, and also the importance of language skills. So this is something I want to highlight if you're an international researcher or student. If you plan to continue your career outside of academia and in the country you're presently living in, you should consider learning the language in the country you're based in, because that is a very important key in many cases. Next slide, please. And also the company, I mean, we want the internship program to be a win-win situation for both parts, not only the researcher, but also the companies. And these are values that the participating companies have said that they've gained from participating in this program. They get highly motivated, skilled, and self-driven researcher coming in. They get access to the researcher network and potential and new network and new research collaborations. It's important for the employer branding, and it opens doors for future recruitment possibilities. And we have seen that about 25% of those that have performed an internship get a prolongation on contract with the organization. If you're curious and want to learn more about doing an internship or careers inside or outside academia, I highly recommend you to visit our blog, career blog. This is portraits written by both PhD student in the course and also a group of researchers who do blogging because of interest. So go and visit this site to get some inspiration. And yes, over to Dublin and Niamh. Welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Edith. Buongiorno, Trieste. Despite the complicated way my name is spelt, I'm Niamh, and I'm the Irish representative of our Careers Eurovision here today. So I work, like everybody else, with a really small team, and I suppose building bridges is really important within the university, just even to do my own job. I've got a few slides, and really the focus of what I'm going to look at is how my job really is about linking postdocs to agencies outside of the university, both for academic roles and beyond. So we work with so myself and my colleague who's based in HR, I'm based in the careers office, we work with just postdocs. There are at any one time between 400 and 500 postdocs in our system. And in UCD, you can only do 2 postdocs before you need to move on. So that means you're either bringing in a substantial amount of money to set up your own team, or you're moving out to do something else. And so this means that when you start your postdoc in the university, it's really important that straight away you understand how to make the most of the time that you're in the university. So I guess part of my job is to do coaching work as opposed to advising with postdocs, but really the point to the role was to set up a range of supports so that postdocs would have an understanding of how to negotiate the system in order to have a job at the end of their contract, whether it's within the academy or beyond. And so we've moved from having lots of Excel spreadsheets and red pens and trying to figure out who are the actual postdocs in the university to integrating systems within the university, working with IT and media services. So now when a postdoc starts their contract, they automatically get an email from our VP for Research, Innovation and Impact with links to all of the services that are in the university. And that includes coming to an orientation, a career orientation day. We run 4 of those a year, and the VP actually opens those. So that involves academics and professionals around the university who provide supports for researchers. So everything from getting funded, getting access to teaching, getting good mentorship support, technology transfer, and then the careers, skills, coaching stuff that we do. They understand that at the end of the day that all this stuff is there, and then it's kind of up to them to access it whenever they want to. We've put together a handbook for postdocs that aligns to all of those things. So getting funded, teaching, getting proper mentored teaching, and then everything across the skills set, which I'll talk about in a sec. The one-to-one support, along the lines of what Donald was talking about, we offer an introductory meeting, which happens with my colleague in HR, and then the coaching stuff, I don't know what to do with my life, or I know but I don't know how to get there. Those kind of conversations happen with me in careers. This portal is something they can access with their supervisor. The idea is that they have one-to-one meetings with us, and then when they've got their head straight and they don't need to have an existential crisis conversation with their supervisor, they can go in and ask, I suppose, concentrated questions around career development. That can be updated on the system too. We have an online events calendar in the system, so it means that we run about 70 events a year, depending on whether there's a pandemic or not, and they can be booked through the system and then updated on the portal. And as all of the aspects of the design of the system were informed by postdocs and PIs around the university, something they particularly wanted was a system-generated certificate that shows the training that they've attended during the time of their contract. So there's some transferability with this cert that they can use in other areas of their career. So the infographic at the bottom is something that we kind of use as a tag for researchers is, have you got your welcome email? Did you get your handbook? Have you had your one-to-one meetings? There are programs that you can attend. There's an exit meeting that they can have with me, which is really about ideally coming to the end of their contract. They've already identified a new job, and we're having a conversation about, in the future, how are you going to manage your career? They can access the one-to-one meetings up to 2 years after their contract has ended. And the idea behind this is that we use all of that information that postdocs are giving us all the time to re-inform the development of the program. So just to say a word about the events that we run, they're based on 4 core competencies, and these were generated by working with postdocs and PIs before my time, before I came into the role. It was decided that these were the competencies that researchers wanted to focus on to build their career. So there's the research and research management, teaching, learning and mentoring, which are the obvious ones for the academic track. And then personal and professional excellence and innovation transferable skills are kind of my side of the house. It's the working with funding agencies, companies across sectors, technology transfer, and it's making links between the training and the actual the practicality of how to use that in your career going forward. So just to say, maybe the courses are dynamic, so they change obviously from year to year. There's a couple of ones there that stay, like the teaching and learning seminar series, which is tailored to postdocs, and the professional certificate in project management, which is something that so, for example, I was getting a lot of people into one-to-one saying that they were interested in project management roles, but they didn't know how to go about doing that. They didn't even know how to answer some of the requirements on the job description. And so in conversation with the person who works in HR, we found an external provider and run those courses so that the feedback from alumni postdocs is that in particular was really useful for them to have language around how to describe what they do in interview and to actually do the job in the next case. And then I think we have one more slide. Yep. So just, I suppose, back to that building bridges piece is a lot of what I'm doing is linking up alumni postdocs with current postdocs. So we run a roundtable series in the spring where postdocs who've moved on come back in and talk either to a theme, like how to know what to do next, or to a sector, how to work in a funding agency. And the idea here is, as Barbara said, is to build that network so that the researchers can actually further their career themselves. So they can have one meeting with me and maybe 3 meetings with somebody from a roundtable, and that would further their career rather than having lots of coaching. Then that's not necessarily as practical as looking at exactly where they want to go. Based on this kind of work, this year we've generated a handbook of profiles of postdocs who've moved on across sectors. And across sectors, I really emphasise that to be a really good academic now, you've got to work with companies and NGOs and agencies. That it isn't just about looking at where am I going to work outside of the academy. It's how to bring the outside in as well. And on that note, then every year we run an event where we bring in the 3 main funders in Ireland who have a scheme for early career researchers to support enterprise partnerships. And that's where the researcher gets funded to work with a company or a non-profit for a year or 2 years, depending on the call. And so we bring in the companies that are interested in partnering with researchers, but maybe don't know about how to get funded themselves and don't know how to meet researchers, the researchers themselves, and then the funding agencies. And even though it's a small enough group, so we might only have 100 or 150 people in the room, unlike a career fair, this is really focused on how to further research, because Ireland isn't necessarily a country you're going to come to work in R&D in industry, because a lot of the companies are working in manufacturing. And a lot of postdocs, as everybody knows, when they get to the end of their contract, they're not necessarily interested in moving again. So by the time they've arrived in Ireland, at some point they maybe want to build their career here. So working with a funding agency and a company in order to keep doing research, to either build on their research for an academic track or move into that company to do something different afterwards, can be a really nice opportunity for people to start to think about. As the postdocs tell us all the time, as colleagues have told us before, generally postdocs are incredibly employable, and their work is incredibly strategic without them knowing it. So I suppose there's a lot of hope in that idea, or that message, that your job may not exist yet, and until you get into it and you start to create the opportunity, you wouldn't necessarily see it. That's me. Over to Malika in France.
Thank you very much. So I'm Melike Riolet. I'm a trainer and international project manager at ABG. So just to quickly introduce you ABG in the next slide, we are a French non-profit dedicated to career development of PhDs outside academia. And basically we have 3 activities: recruitment through our job board, information activities through our website, newsletter, networking events that we organize. We try to share relevant information for PhD candidates and PhDs, like mobility opportunities, fundings, testimonials of PhDs who moved outside academia. And the third activity is training, so individual trainings and group trainings for PhD candidates and holders for them to steer their career. So we have a very large audience and different services in France and in Europe, but in this presentation I will focus on 2 audiences that need for us special attention to improve the support for the career development of researchers. So the first audience is the supervisors. Actually, we can't stress enough that the role of the supervisor is to, it's to the quality of the work, the successful completion of the PhD, but also supporting the PhD candidates for their future career. So how can they do that? By being transparent about the job market, giving them information about their career prospects, by also letting them develop their skills during their PhD and their autonomy and skills for the jobs outside academia as well. So fostering career development is a key, I'm still on the slide, thank you, a key topic that we address during these workshops, and it has a real impact, because just to give you a concrete example, we often have supervisors coming to us saying that we avoid completely the question of career career of our PhDs after the completion of their PhD, because we give them a temporary contract, but we are not able to offer them a permanent contract afterwards. So through these trainings, we can make an impact on these supervisors who are uncomfortable about discussing the after PhD, and making them capable of providing insight, advice, resources to their PhD candidates. I want to mention that ABG organizes multi-organizational trainings from supervisors from different research institutions that allow us to build bridges between different research institutions and to create this change in supervisor practices and spread awareness on this issue. The second audience that I want to mention in the next slide is the postdocs. So the postdocs have more experience, and they often have more clarity on their career aspirations, and they have somewhat urgent needs, because it's, for example, Neem mentioned that they do a limited number of temporary contracts in a research organization. They often change countries. So they have some urgent needs, but they may sometimes lack adequate support. Here we heard about a lot of good practices, but in some cases the postdocs may lack support because of various reasons, because they are fewer in number. They may be considered as external to their research institution, or less of a priority, or they may lack specific career advisors, unlike PhD candidates. So what we offer postdocs, an example of good practice is the cross-border postdoctorals that we have been organizing since 2015 with partners from Luxembourg and Germany. So this is a residential workshop that has, again, a real impact, because it allows postdocs to take time to do a self-assessment, to define their career plan, to learn about job search methods, work on their communication, work on their networking skills, of course, but also, and the important point is that for me, this allows them to get to know about the situation in other European countries, because often they believe that their country is an exception regarding the difficulties that PhDs live for their career prospects. But this kind of international cross-border context may help them to know more about common problems, and also share insight, experience with their peers. And also, since we invite professionals from different countries to these workshops, they may know about opportunities in these countries. So that's something that ABG would like to develop in the upcoming months with other partners from other countries as well. So thank you very much for listening.
Okay, good morning. Good morning, Trieste. Good morning, Europe. My name is Esther Jarour, and I represent the Central European Institute of Technology, known as CEITEC. My role as CEITEC was to set up a new career development program for researchers of all career stages. Well, what is CEITEC? CEITEC is a federation of 6 research institutes based in Brno, Czech Republic. The research center was founded only in 2011, so it is only nearly 10 years ago, and we will soon celebrate the 10th anniversary. I represent CEITEC Masaryk University, which is the largest consortium partner and one of the leading life science research institutes of the Czech Republic. We are young and dynamic research center that attracts top EU grants and actively participates in European scientific partnerships and networks such as EU Life, Alliance for Life, or CARE. CETEC is equipped with state-of-the-art research infrastructure and employs excellent scientists from all over the world. Our mission is to improve quality of life and human health. Today, next slide, please. Okay, the next one. Thank you. Today, I will be sharing our unique experience with establishment of a career development program from scratch. This might be interesting, especially for other universities and research institutes from EU 13 countries who do not have career development programs for their researchers in place yet. So we were aware that our success depends on the quality of our researchers, and therefore we need to be able to attract and retain good scientists. And to do so, we set for ourselves a clear goal to become the most preferred employer in research in the region. At the beginning of 2019, we were awarded the HR Excellence in Research Award, known as the HR Award. This award is a quality label that is granted by the European Commission to research institutions and sets out principles for good working conditions for researchers, including career development services. We were the first research institute in Czech Republic to receive this award, and back then we didn't have any strategic career development program in place except just few ad hoc courses that took place once in a while. But we knew that a good career development program is absolutely crucial for us and could become our competitive advantage and attract talented researchers to our center. Furthermore, as we are an international science center where mobility plays a key role and most researchers stayed with us only for a limited time, we knew that we have to invest into their professional development not only for our own benefit, but also for their benefit, to send our researchers to their new destination equipped with new skills and globally competitive. We recognize that good career development program is therefore strategically important for us. The title of our talk today is Building Bridges, and now I will tell you how our partner institutes from Western Europe helped us to implement new career development program here at CETEC in a very short time, only in one single year. So luckily CETEC is a member in several alliances, including EU Life, which is an alliance of 14 research institutes advocating for excellent research in Europe. We decided to benefit from the rich experience of our partner institutes from EU Life, and we arranged a one-week-long on-the-job internship at our partner institute CRG in Barcelona, with a clear aim to learn how to establish a functioning and well-balanced training program at CETEC. Our goal was to have this program ready within one single academic year. And because our colleagues at CRG were not only experienced, but also willing to help and share what works and what doesn't, we were finally able to offer a portfolio of nearly 30 different career development courses within this one single academic year. The courses targeted mainly junior researchers, as they mostly need the most career support. But we also had a set of leadership workshops targeting supervisors and research group leaders. We offered topics ranging from academic writing, science communication and presentation skills, career counseling for researchers, graphic design for researchers, bioinformatics, self-leadership, entrepreneurship, grants writing, but also emotional intelligence. And because successful collaboration is about give and take, we decided to serve as a bridge in institutional knowledge transfer between the West and the East of Europe. CETEC is a coordinating institution of another strategic alliance called Alliance for Life. And this alliance is a bottom-up initiative of 10 leading life science institutions from 9 EU 13 countries located in Eastern and Central Europe. This alliance aims at closing the divide in European health research and innovation, and we decided to share our newly gained experience with our partners from Alliance for Life, and we inspired them to develop their own career programs for their researchers. Now I would like to, next slide please, briefly summarize the most important lessons learned from our journey towards career development program. Learn from experienced professionals because it will save you time and help you to prevent mistakes. Consider needs of your researchers to determine the priority of offered courses and to understand the needs of each particular group of researchers. Select high quality providers. We learned that it is crucial to offer high quality training that is tailored to researchers if we want them to attend and to truly benefit. Motivate and inspire. We keep the researchers motivated. We regularly organize inspirational talks with signed personalities from academia as well as industry. Remain globally competitive. We are continuously following global trends and adapting our training portfolio to current needs. And it is also important to provide safe space to practice. We understood that training without practice is not enough, and we are therefore trying to link each training with a deliverable and provide enough opportunities for researchers to practice their newly gained skills in a safe environment. As you see, it is not impossible to implement a solid career development program for researchers from scratch, but it really requires institutional commitment and determination. We are very grateful for the help we are continuously receiving from our partners in both mentioned alliances, EU Life and Alliance for Life, and from the other members of the CARE group. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Esther, for the last talk. That was a marathon of 8 very interesting presentations, and we're happy to now still really spend half an hour with all of you in the audience with your questions and concerns, remarks, etc. So you can go back to the Menti if you like. We already have a nice overview of who is in the audience, but you can go there at the very end of the session. I will share that with you. So the code is 21 56 805 and yes, also on the streaming platform, you have asked your questions, and one of the questions was actually, can we get the slides? And we have good news for you. We're very happy to share. It's of course within the limitations of this interactive platform. We can suggest that you join our CARE group, and as Sarah told you, we started the CARE group in 2012 at the ESOF in Copenhagen. And since then, there is a group where all of us, and there's more than 50 careers advisors, so the 8 of us is only part of that. You can find us on LinkedIn and the group, and the easiest is also to write down the number 6613-591, or you just look for CARE, Careers Advisors Supporting Researchers in Europe. And this link is also on Menti in the second question, if you want. So this is to answer the question. The slides of this ESOF session, we will also post a PDF in the LinkedIn group. Yes, and so with this, I would like to stop the screen share and turn to our panel discussion and have a look at your questions. So actually, a general question that was asked. If you have stayed too long in academia and have difficulties in getting an entry-level position outside academia, what do careers advisors say to that? Would we recommend researchers to leave directly after the PhD? And I think that's something we all hear very, very often. I should have left directly after my PhD, and now I think if you're a postdoc, and Beata is smiling and saying, if you start your career also later, what is it, when you have done several years of postdoc, what is it about transitioning at a later stage? So maybe I ask Ireland to answer that question. So Donald and Neve, and we'll start with ladies first. Neve, could you say what you recommend someone who stayed quite long in academia?
So I guess it depends on, I would always start again with your values and what's important to you, and ultimately what you want for your life. So we'd look at, ideally, where would you like to be? Forget about the title of the job and what would you like to be doing? And a lot of people say that they want to be a researcher or they want to be an academic. And sometimes they need to do a little bit more research into what the role is nowadays. And if they're not securing funding very early on, then they have to ask themselves, would they enjoy that work if that's what they're going to be doing for the rest of their academic career? And so I suppose entry-level positions is not something I would recommend for somebody in a postdoc. It's slightly different with PhD students, but definitely for somebody in postdoc. I find we run a survey a couple of times a year looking at postdocs who've moved on and where they got their next job. And over 90% each time say they got their job from their network. And that can be from somebody passing them on a job description, from somebody from them going to one of our events and meeting another postdoc, or meeting somebody on a panel who came in to talk about how to put an academic CV together. So it's really important that you're getting good mentorship if it's an academic track that you're after, and that you're expanding your network all the time, but not in a like going out handing out business cards kind of way. Really fundamental, having interesting conversations with people about things that you're interested in, and following that, and rather than thinking that it's something else mysterious that you should be doing, because people sometimes think the careers office is where you go to get your CV sorted, and that's actually the very last thing that you're going to need to do. Really, the first place to start is what do you want to be doing, and then who do you need to be speaking to in order to learn more about that, in order to align what you've done to what they want. I'm not sure if that's too general. Maybe Donald, you can give more detail on that.
Yeah, let me just come in on that. I would have said absolutely everything you've just said. So, you know, that's probably what you'll hear from a careers consultant. Just a couple of thoughts. I mean, the first one is if in your institution you have access to a specialist careers consultant, go and talk to them, because this is quite a long conversation. I would want to spend an hour talking this conversation through with you, because it's a very important question. The second one is that Neve hinted at this. The entry-level positions are probably not interested in you because you should be applying for something higher up, and you're able to do it. And if you can speak to the employer in a way that they understand that you can do it, they'll probably give you the chance. So kind of raise your aspirations a bit. Having said that, sometimes career change does involve dropping pay and status. For someone with a PhD and substantial professional experience, if you do that, you're very likely to recover that ground very quickly. So your talents will be spotted, you'll be promoted very quickly. I've seen that happen a lot of times. And then I'd just like to echo what Neve said about, you know, values and your vision. You know, what is it that drove you when you first got into research? And are there other places where you can do that? Because there probably are. And I think Neve said, you know, don't pay too much attention to job titles. It's what are these people actually doing? Does it line up with your vision of yourself and your values and the things that you want to achieve? And if it does, you know, perhaps go to that. I'd just like to wrap up by saying I think all of us careers consultants experience this. There are no certain definite rules in planning a career. It's very much about the context. It's about you and your vision and your values. It's about the employers and what they're up to and how that's changing. It's all very fluid. So, you know, you can ask that question now and you get an answer. In 2 years' time, you might get a different answer, which is why it's so complicated and why I started by saying, you know, come and talk to one of us if you can, because we need to kind of unpack all of that and help you make sense of it.
Thank you, Donald and Neve. So I think we will all agree all over Europe that that it's not very different in any of our countries. But Sweden could maybe still have another word about this, like transitioning. Because concretely, also the question is, if someone came to see you, Annette, and said, "Well, look, would you recommend me to leave right after my PhD, or is it okay to do a postdoc?"
I just wanted to add on that, of course, they can come and talk to us, but they shouldn't forget to talk to the peers, postdoc around them, postdoc in the close groups, because if you're first year postdoc, you will certainly have someone who's on the third or fourth or fifth year postdoc who are planning to do the next transition, meaning going either to an academic career or finding a job outside. And to have that network and keep that network is really, really important. And we also have a great, for example, in Karolinska, we have a great postdoc association And they have now for several years, they have hosted Career Beyond Academia event where they invite former postdocs to come and talk about the career move, both outside academia, but also how to get the inside. But they do this in two different events. So in May, there is this moving outside academy, and in October, it's the how to get the position after postdoc within academia. So that was the
Thank you.
contribution.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So there is also a question that maybe I will ask Milike to answer, but it would concern all of us in the same way. Do you provide specialized support for international researchers, particularly non-EU citizens, who often have much less secure career situation than EU citizens? You know, so Milike, if I'm Indian and I come to you to ABG, is that possible? Can I get your support, because I don't speak French, and I maybe feel it's harder for me to get a job than the local people. So how about that? Does ABG support non-EU citizens?
Yes, of course. An important part of our audience comes from other countries than the EU. So yeah, we provide support in French and in English, mainly in these two languages. For the administrative aspects of this job search, we work a lot with Euroaccess, which is our partner. So we orient our audience to them for all the questions regarding the visa, the work permits, etc. And we work on the aspects like career plan, like networking, and like specific requirements to find a job in France.
Thanks a lot. Yeah. Another question that came up, which I think relates a little bit to you also, Milike, is whether research group leaders should do many more courses. Many are untrained also in finance, project management, leadership, human resources. And someone said that the EMBO, European Molecular Biology Organization, offers excellent courses in lab management. And I think it's very interesting that you have this focus, these trainings for supervisors. So do you think supervisors in general should do more?
Do I think they should do more for which aspects?
Courses for, also for other aspects of finances, etc.
Yes, I think, but there are a lot of these courses available for supervisors. The question always is to find time in their work to do these kind of courses, and it's important to be open to the self-development. We are more focused on the supervisor trainings concerning the career development of PhDs, as I was saying. So, but in France, at least, there was maybe a kind of a resistance at the beginning to these kind of trainings, but especially amongst the new generation of supervisors, we realize that they are more and more open to these trainings on a lot of different various aspects of their work. Yeah.
Very encouraging. Thank you. Yeah. So many questions coming in here. So I'm very excited about that. Someone said, and maybe Beata can answer this from the Eurodoc point of view. Why do you think it's so difficult for a researcher to have a stable life? How can I reconcile the desire to be close to the family, be a researcher at the same time, considering most of the time as a researcher should move from a lab to another and from city country to another? So this is the very classical question, I think, that we all share in research. And so, yeah, why do you think it's more difficult for a researcher to have a stable life?
I think it's a very demanding job to be a researcher, and it is very challenging. It is stressful in many times. There are a lot of expectations. So many things combined. Also, a lack of fundings many times, and not still some solutions that need to be made better, institutional solutions, but also on European level, like mobility policies. Also in connection to gender equality, where a lot of burden is still on women researchers. I mean, there are so many factors, so many things that make it difficult, that I believe that there is no like one solution, and definitely the support is still more support is still needed on so many levels, that it is a researcher himself or herself cannot cope with that, I'm afraid. So there is no easy answer to that, I'm afraid.
Yes, thank you, Beata. Niamh, you wanted to add something to that?
Yeah, just to say that the international landscape for early career researchers at the moment isn't always fully understood by the researchers themselves. And, when we work in this field, we're very aware of how things have changed in the last 10 years. So all governments are trying to increase the number of people doing a PhD, but not necessarily the number of academic jobs that exist. And so you can look at lots of international data and see that these two don't match up. And sometimes it's only at the end of your PhD, maybe even 2 years into a postdoc, that you realize actually there are more and more PhDs and less permanent jobs. There are actually more temporary roles in universities, but there aren't really these permanent roles in research institutes that maybe existed 10, 15 years ago. And I think that's really crucial for an early career researcher to understand as early on as possible, because then you can start to make a strategy for yourself around, well, if you know for sure that your vision in life is to work in, for example, cancer research, then you identify the top institutions that you should work in as early on in your career as possible. And then you build that mobility in, so that the third stop is the last one for you. It sounds really easy when you look backwards. It's not, of course, but this is part of the challenge for a researcher in terms of trying to find a stable life. It is not one of those careers that you choose because of the stability of it. And I think any of us would say, if you get 100 postdocs in a room and you ask them what's their priority now as opposed to what was their priority when they were doing their PhD, a lot of the time towards the end of their postdoc, it's, I want a stable life. I want to not have to keep moving around, and I want some kind of a salary that will allow me to get a mortgage. And at the beginning of your PhD, the priority may have been to do something fantastic and creative and really interesting. It's not that you can't do both. It's that there is, as Donald said, a bit of work off the page in trying to understand, now, how do I reconcile what I thought I was doing with what I am actually doing, or what I'm going to do for the future. And I suppose it's cold comfort, but a lot of us in our careers have to do that. We think that we can be mobile forever, and then we get to a point where we decide we don't want to be in whatever we do. And then we start to make different decisions. And it comes back to that thing of understanding, well, at the moment, what is it that I really want? Which piece is it? Is it to be that researcher that I thought I was, or is it to have stability? And at this moment, I may need to choose between the two of them so that I can make a different decision in 2 years' time. Thanks, Barbara.
Yeah, great. So very briefly, Donald would like to still say something, and then we'll move to the next question. We have a few, and by the way, I can recommend you to continue to ask questions. So I have an eye both on the ones posted on the web and on Menti, and we will share Menti 2156805 on menti.com. And Donald, you wanted to briefly add something to this?
Very briefly, just that the solution to this isn't, Niamh said this and Beata said it, the solution to this is not just with the individual, it's with the institutions. So if you have a chance to make your views on this issue represented and heard in the institution through your trade union or your representative groups, or through policy connections or at policy level, take it, because it will only change if the people doing the jobs start making their views more clear and more strong, and trying to push the institutions to change the way they behave. So long as we let them continue doing what they're doing, that they'll carry on doing it. So we know we have to stand up for ourselves as well.
Yes, and maybe I just very briefly add to that from our experience is that, you know, it's not like there is no work-life balance in academia, right? We also see that people sometimes come back from the stable job in industry and say like, well, the freedom I had was in academia doing a postdoc and even as a group leader is actually much more allowing me to have a stable life and things that I control myself. So it's very interesting to also see that people come back and that it is fine to try out a stable position, and that we see that more and more it's not so much a definite thing that there's no way back. Of course, for myself, my PhD is 20 years ago. The way back into research is a little far-fetched, but I would still bet, you know, if I really wanted to, I would do that, yeah? That's career development. So, there is a specific question about Czech Republic here for Esther. Do you have a legally certified career path in Czech Republic based on which the advancement of researchers in research institutes is rated?
Well, on the national level, we do not have anything like this, but on the institutional level, we have our internal career policy. But since Czech Republic and many other EU 13 countries have really a huge problem with inbreeding, our career policy is mainly directed towards mobility. So we, for example, if we have an excellent PhD student, we don't want him to stay with us as a postdoc, even though he's excellent, but we find him another destination, another lab where he could advance his skills, and then we would be maybe willing to have him back as a junior group leader. We like when people come from somewhere else and bring fresh ideas. We are big advocates of diversity and mobility, and this is what our career policy, internal career policy, is mainly about.
Yes, thank you, Esther. There's also a more general question, actually general because I think it's also valid all over the EU. Sarah, could you maybe answer this on NGOs? If I would want to join an NGO after my PhD, what's the scope? Is this possible? And then especially if I want this, how?
Thanks. Well, that's a very broad-ranging question because there's so many different NGOs. Some are at the more local level, some at the national level, some are at the international level. But I would say, you know, treat them like you would treat an employer and use the same skills as Neve and Donald and others have mentioned. But it's really important to network and to make connections with these organizations. And so what I would recommend is either to reach out through LinkedIn or through the alumni group. And one mention of the alumni, I know that institutions are doing fantastic work in bringing in their alumni. If you don't have that service at your own institution, you can actually go onto LinkedIn and go into your institutional site, and they have an alumni button there where you can go and track down people who've worked or been PhD students at your organization and try and have an informational interview with them, or even get some volunteering experience as well. But there's such a wide range of jobs within these organizations. So I myself did work for an NGO. I was working for a charity, which was a learned society, and they employed all sorts of people with PhDs as well, in science administration, in policy, in conference organization, and then you have people who are advisors and so on. So I think, you know, how big is your imagination? So I think just reach out, make contacts, and then if you've been already in touch with these organizations, or if you've been volunteering with them or working with them in any way, a lot of them offer internships. They are more likely to bring you in because you've already shown that commitment. So that's what I would say in terms of NGOs.
Absolutely. The internships are a very, very common thing. And then the question might be, how to do an internship, or whether this is like for more experienced researchers still a valid option, right? Because often they are very, I mean, the pay is very, very little, I think, for NGO internships. Esther, what would you say about NGOs in Czech? You have to switch on your microphone.
I do not see our researchers going necessarily to NGOs because we are in the sector of life sciences, and I'm not aware of our researchers taking this career direction.
Okay. Or Beata?
NGOs are kind of at my present in many activities that I do. So I just wanted to share with you that many NGOs, you need to be aware that many NGOs struggle economically. Some are well off, but many depend on projects, which implies short-term contracts. Nevertheless, NGOs are, it depends on the country and context, but are a big employer. So for example, I believe in Europe the number is like they are third employer, third largest employer. I am originally from Poland, and I'm not sure if the number is not like that they are second here. But so it's still a big number and worth consideration. I'm not sure if there shouldn't be more focus on that also in career planning. One more thing that I wanted to add is that while universities and even the Bologna process itself focused on preparing for market and innovation for years, now there is this new direction. So they are advertising for NGOs and as also collaboration with NGOs or employment there as the answer for current societal problems. So you may also take it in consideration if this is something that is of your interest.
Thank you. So with this, I would want to have a look at our Menti platform, and so happy to just share a few of the results that are on there. And I wanted to ask the person who asked the last question. Unfortunately it got marked as answered inadvertently. So could you please post it again? And let's have a look who we have in our audience. It's very nice to see that, yes, of course, many careers advisors are also listening in this, which is good about the shared good practice. But we see also researchers, university staff are with us today, which is kind of nice to have a little bit of feedback from the audience. And you see at the bottom here is the question thing, so you could still ask questions here. And to our question, what career support is most helpful for you? You can read here, and I will leave you some time to look at this. Which is I think also for us careers advisors quite interesting to see, you know, what support is most useful. We get the feedback, of course, from our events and offers, etc. And of course, it's good to see that one-to-one is one of those elements, and training. So would anybody of the panel want to comment on some of the elements here? Because Sarah, how would you say clearly outlined career paths that align with your personal strengths and core values balanced by context and reality? What about that?
I didn't see that one. It's all scrolling through. I mean, I can see networking, a lot of networking, clearly outlined career paths. Yeah, I mean, you know, you need to start with your values, as Neve said, and then work back from there to determine your career path. Career paths are very squiggly and wiggly and disjointed nowadays. So you might set off in one direction and end up, as we've done, in completely different places. But actually, that can be more interesting than what you originally planned to do. So I think self-awareness and, you know, getting support from around from careers advisors, I can see one-to-one career consultants and having a good supervisor. What does good mean? What can they do to help you? And just connecting, because careers are about people. And that's the most important thing to remember, that, the more you communicate and you connect, the more likely you are to, realize the career that you want to have.
Yeah, so thank you very much. So seeing that we only have 5 minutes left and there's still quite a few questions suddenly coming up now. So I would say that we actually very, very briefly try to answer the last questions and then wrap up the session. I'm so excited that we get such a big response here. So Matthew from Eurodoc asked, more often than not, grant offices are considered vital organs of a university and career offices are treated as auxiliary. How do you resolve this imbalance and remind universities that after education and research, people are their third deliverable? So Annette, what would you say to this? How can we resolve the imbalance that of being treated as auxiliary?
I think we need to have a communication with the management of the university, and not to forget that, and also to show to the management that the alumni are so important, and that the university or company brand depends on how your employees talk about the experience after they leave or move on to the next position. So having a open.
Thank you. So Niamh, very briefly.
The funding office needs to work with careers in order to write good career plans for the researchers. I think this is really key. If you work with, you sound like Matthew, you sound like a career consultant. So the funding agency should be using you to help the researchers write the career grants, and then they'll be more successful.
Absolutely. And so very important question also about the importance of mobility, but how do you keep that with inclusivity and not everybody can move, disabled people, the neurodiversity. So who wants to answer that?
Can I come in on this one?
Yes, please.
Yeah, we haven't got much time. I'd just like to recommend a resource, really, because this is a huge concern of mine. I think part of our job is to equip the people we work with to fight those inclusivity battles. And so there's a wonderful blog run in the UK called Careers for Social Justice. And there's a tremendous amount of resource and thinking going on there about how we actually address these questions. It's really worth reading.
Thanks.
Can I just add to that? I know people always think of physical mobility these days, but actually there are a lot more ways to work remotely, as we know now. Reaching out to potential collaborators and trying to sort of offer to collaborate and connect with them and help and contribute to projects remotely, especially with things like data analysis and programming and so on. So that's another option.
Yeah. So thank you very much. And now this again, the question got disappeared. I think I clicked too fast on the questions as answered on Menti. So I will just leave it on another second. And I really think it's very exciting to see what happened all here in this session. And I will very briefly go through our whole panel now, because we really only have 1 minute left. Yeah, really 1 minute for 8 speakers. From the career support that's most helpful for you and your own conviction, could each of you please pick one that speaks also most to you and to which you could connect, like, you're also your biggest advice of, like, this is what I would tell a researcher also, that if you could take one resource, that's what I recommend. So I would definitely say network with alumni. So talk to people who are in different positions. Sarah, what would you say?
Increase your self-awareness. If you know who you are and what you want, then you can make decisions more in a more informed way, and even help with your CV and answering interview questions.
Great. Annette? If you can
agree
switch
with
on the background.
both of you. Network with alumni, network with everyone, and increase your self-awareness. And
Great. Thank you. Esther?
I would say that it's extremely important to be proactive and communicate and network.
Thanks. Donald?
Apply your researcher skills to your career. So your ability to problem solve, to research, to analyze, to collaborate. You have these at a fabulous level. Start using them for your own advancement.
Really great. Neve?
Don't be afraid to get funded to work with an agency like an NGO or a company. There's lots of funding out there now for that, and people don't realize it. It's much easier to get funded than you think it is if you get support.
True. Beata?
Okay, I would say use chances to develop your skills side by side to your supervisors, but also do not neglect your colleagues and have initiative approach them.
True. Thank you so much. And finally, Melike, before we say bye-bye to the audience.
Again, network with professionals in the sectors that you're aiming, because you can't know about hidden opportunities and what you're capable of doing without doing that.
Thank you. It was so great having you all, and it was great having the audience. Thank you. And have a good end of ESOF. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.